Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the 2024 SCGA Women's Team Play Captains webinar. My name is Jimmy Becker. I'm Assistant Director of Championships and Golf Operations, and otherwise known as Team Play Emeritus. So I'm like the wizard behind the cloud for team play when it comes to big rules issues or anything like that involving team play and women's team play. I'm going to turn it over to Jeff Skubik, the manager in our department, who is your going to be your main point of contact for women's team play this season. And he's got some slides to go over the 2024 season. Most of it has stayed the same, but there is one big change, and it comes on the handicap end, and he'll cover that here in a little bit. Just a couple of quick things. If you do have questions, feel free to raise your hand at any time, and we'll unmute you. We will send this recording out as well to all the captains once is available to us via Zoom. So Jeff, it's all yours.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jimmy. And one other thing I'll just add in there is we also have the chat feature going. So if you have any questions that are pressing on your mind, you can go ahead and use the chat feature as well. And I just want to first off welcome you all to the 2024 Captains webinar for Women's Team Play season. We'll try to be mindful of everyone's time, so not to keep you on too long. I know you all probably have some other things to do than sit in front of a computer screen. But at the same time, we'll just kind of go over a few things as well. As Jimmy had mentioned, my name is Jeff Skubik. I'm the manager in the Championships and Golf Operations Department here at the Southern California Golf Association. I've been with the SCGA for about a little over 5 years now, and this is my third year being in charge of the leagues program here. However, as Jimmy alluded to before, there are many of us that have our hands in this program as well. And these are the people, this is my support staff that's involved with women's team play. So if any one of these individuals is on the call and you want to unmute yourself to say hi, feel free to go ahead.
Jeff, it's Jimmy. Just real quick, I guess there's a little bit of an issue with the chat. I'm going to work on that while introductions happen, but I'll try to fix it here as we're going.
Awesome. All right, then, if no one else is chiming in, we'll just go ahead and I'll go around the horn, starting in the upper left corner, going clockwise. You all met Jimmy Becker a little earlier. Bianca Avina, who is our main point of contact, anytime you call or email in, she has been with the SCGA for a long time, so most of you very much know her as well. Heading down the side, we have Daniel Blanton, who is a coordinator in our Championships and Golf Operations division as well, who has been a big help with not just women's team play, but men's team play as well. And we'll conclude with Austin Statt in the lower right-hand corner there, who has been helping us out immensely since he just got brought on board. So we have 5 of us here that will be willing to help you out come team play season. Just to dive into a quick agenda of what we have in store for you tonight, we'll go ahead and start with a brief introduction and kind of go over some of the entry fees and payment info. We'll touch on the schedule and go into some of the manual and policies that we have. We'll hit the changes that Jimmy alluded to for 2024. Again, they are not related to women's team play per se, but more so handicap changes that affect women's team play. And that will be the grunt of our topic for tonight, and then we'll open the floor up for some questions and answers throughout the program. We'll go ahead and start with the introduction, and we're actually starting with something that's going to be new for women's team play this year, and that is that women's team play is now open to any SCGA member club that meets the criteria for women's team play. That is prior to this past year, SCGA clubs were classified into either type 1, type 2, or type 3 clubs. And SCGA team play and women's team play was only open to clubs that were a type 1 classification, which is any club that has real estate attached to it. However, this past year, the SCGA voted to do away with the club classification system and lumped all SCGA clubs into one bucket, and you are now just viewed as an SCGA member club. So we don't have any affiliate clubs, as we called them previously, as part of women's team play for this season, but it's something nice to keep in your back pocket of if your group is looking to expand or looking to include other members, or if you're a member of an affiliate club that has an interest in women's team play. Well, now you are permitted to play in women's team play, where in years past you didn't have that affordability, unfortunately. But for this year, we have, I believe, 23 clubs participating in women's team play, and they are arranged into groups of 3 or 4. And you will have a 12-person team that will play a round-robin series of home and away matches within your group, also known as the regular season matches. All of the competitions for women's team play are 4-ball net match play, which is the same as it's always been. And the group winners at the end of the regular season will meet in a bracket-style elimination playoff that will culminate in an 18-hole championship, which we'll get to in a little bit. We kept the entry fees the same as we did last year, which is $225 per team. And we have sent out the electronic invoices already. If you have not paid those yet, please be sure to do so before your match gets started. If you haven't received them yet, or you have any questions about it, please feel free to reach out to us at the main email address there, champs@scga.org, and we'll be happy to either resend you the invoice or help you with any assistance you may have or need. Now, getting to the schedules, each group went ahead and set us their schedule for that, and we greatly thank you for that as well. Matches look like they can begin as early as next week, starting February 19th, and you can play them all the way through May 5th. We are knocking on wood, hoping that the heavy part of the rain has already come and gone so that we won't need to have any issues in getting those matches in before that May 5th deadline. Moving on to the group winners, you'll advance to the playoffs. The dates that you see listed there for the round of 8 or the semifinal matches, just a reminder that those are play-by dates. You don't necessarily have to play those matches on those days, but just know that you have to complete them by the May 19th or June 9th dates. And if your team is one of the lucky 2 teams to advance all the way to the championship, you will get to play that on June 23rd, which will once again be held at Aviara Golf Club down in Carlsbad. So the road to Aviara starts right now. So I hope your teams have been practicing to get to that fun experience if you've never been there before. The women's team play manual, we should have that available to you soon. It's just in the final processes of editing. So we're hoping to have that available and up on the SCGA women's team play website either later this week or early next week. As noted, we're just kind of putting the final touches on that. So we should have that to you soon. Just another friendly reminder that the handicaps that are going to be used for calculating the handicaps in each match, those will be updated every Saturday. So I know some of you like to get jump start on things, and as much as we appreciate that, just make sure that you don't set your lineups before each Saturday, so that way you can be assured that you're using the correct handicap, or if you set your lineup before that Saturday revision, there might be a chance you might have to go back and double check just to make sure the lineups are still in correct handicap index order, which leads me to the next one, that during all matches, the players have to be listed and paired in handicap index sequence going from low to high, with the lowest handicap player being listed first. So you can certainly make your lineup, but just make sure that you're setting it after Saturday for that upcoming match. And just a reminder, I know we get this question a lot, the handicap revisions actually occur in the wee hours of the morning. So unless you're a night owl, most of the times by the time you wake up on Saturday morning, you're going to be able to go ahead and set that lineup for that. The 2024 Captain's Portal invitations were sent out last week. Anyone who is listed on the entry form that your club submitted should have received an invitation for that. If you haven't received yours yet, I would say your first step should be to just go ahead and check your junk or spam folder, as sometimes those invitations have been known to end up there. If you've checked that and it's still not listed in there, go ahead and reach out to us, and we can go ahead and either resend the invitation to you, or if there's an individual who needs access who may not have been included on there, go ahead and let us know as well, so that way we can add them and get them access to you as well. If you haven't already, go ahead and review your schedules. I know that we got pointed out there were a couple mistakes that we had made, and which we have corrected on for that one, just to make sure all the dates are listed. And the second one is be sure to double check your course information as well. I know during the quote unquote off season that we may be in right now, this is a time when a lot of courses like to update their stroke index allocations or reassign their handicap holes. Sometimes courses tell us that, and sometimes they don't. So this is another way to double check and make sure everything is on the up and up, because Nothing I'm sure is more frustrating than the night before and you're printing scorecards and all of a sudden you realize your handicap stroke holes are wrong. So if you can go ahead and double check that beforehand, that way we can go ahead and get that corrected ahead of time rather than at the last possible minute. Another thing that we have done this year, and if you haven't been on the women's team play page of scga.org just yet, we have added some short instructional videos that could help you along with the captain's portal. We did that along with Tyler Cope, who is our our Golf Genius representative for our region. Rather than watch an entire webinar on how to perform these certain tasks, we went ahead and made a series of about 6 or 7 videos that will walk you through how to perform all the various functions that you need to do within the captain's portal, ranging anywhere from adding players to your roster or adjusting or changing the date of a match that may need adjusted, or going ahead and just finalizing the match. So if you have any questions about those, I would say go ahead and start with that, and that will kind of walk you through how to do all these various tasks. We won't cover the Captain's Portal in great detail tonight. I know we've done that quite a bit in years past, but just with the changes that we have coming up that are in store for this year, I figure we don't want to make your head spin too much. So if you have any further questions or need any tasks on how to do that, we're going to go ahead and point you to those videos that can be found on the women's team play of scga.org. All right, on to the changes that we have coming up for 2024 this year. Again, as Jimmy had noted before, these are not changes to women's team play per se, but in fact, they were changes that were made to the World Handicap System that will have an impact on how certain tasks are calculated or performed in regards to women's team play. So we'll go ahead with the first one, which is how the handicaps are calculated for 4-ball match play. Prior to this year, what would happen is the players would use their unrounded course handicap, which is the value that's a decimal number that you see on the right-hand side of your screen. Those numbers were rounded to the nearest whole number, and then the differences were applied based off of those whole number values. So looking at the chart that you see on the right-hand side, the player that's a plus 1.133, so on and so forth, would be rounded to a plus 1. The 15.353 would be rounded to a 15, and so on and so forth. And then you would take those whole numbers and take the difference between those whole numbers and apply, and that's where you would get your playing handicap for that match. However, the USGA decided to flip things up on us this year, and for this year, what it does is it takes the difference between those unrounded course handicap values, and then it takes the difference between that and then rounds the whole number for that. And that will determine the number of strokes played or the strokes that are either to be given or to be received. So I'll go ahead and take some time on this one, as I'm sure this is going to be a little new for that. So if you look at the value on the chart that you see right there, you still use the unrounded course value, which is the plus 1.13. But instead of what it does now for player A, it will take the difference between this value and the 15.535 value for player B, which comes to a difference of the number that you see in the bottom chart right here of 16.48675. And it does that for each player in that group as well. Then what it does is it takes that number and then rounds it to determine the player's handicap. So the difference of that 16.48 is rounded to 16, and player B's playing handicap becomes 16. Same thing goes for player C, which is 15.05, rounds to 15. The difference between 18.459 and plus 1.1367 for player D is 19.59, which rounds to 20. I'm going to go ahead and go to one more slide that I'll show you this, and then we'll go ahead and open it up, as I'm sure some questions will be coming through. So this here you see is a screenshot of the handicap analysis that is in Golf Genius. This is taken from one of our men's team play matches, but wanted to show you this to show a couple of things. Number one, that the handicap analysis feature, all captains have access to this in your Golf Genius Captains portal, and I would recommend using so in case there are any questions of that. But I also wanted to show you as to how this calculation is going to be adjusted. So if you look at the player that you see calculated right here, John's handicap index is 2.2. And based on the course and tee that you see that they're set up to play, the final sentence right here that says the resulting course handicap is 1.653. Now, prior to this year, that 1.653 value would be rounded, in which this case it would be rounded up to 2, and John's playing handicap would be 2. He would then take that 2 and compare it off of the low in their handicap, which would this case be a 1, and John would be getting 1 stroke. However, in the 2024 calculation, it takes that 1.653 number and compares it against the unrounded 1.207 number, which is where you get the value of 0.446. That 0.446 differential value is then rounded to the nearest whole number, which in this case is 0. So even though John's playing handicap is higher than the lowest person in the group, John doesn't get any strokes because the differential between those numbers is lower, close enough to round to 0. Now, before we start causing any panic or having to go ahead and think you need a calculator and scrap paper for any of that, I'll just go ahead and say, number one, Golf Genius is calculating everything correctly under the new procedures for that. So you don't need to worry about doing any extra math. So anytime you load a player or print off the scorecards, it's going to show the correct value that's listed based under these new procedures. Number two, as noted before, the captains have access to the handicap analysis. In your captain's portal, it's going to be located in the upper right-hand corner of whatever match you go on. And if you click on that, and then it gives you the ability to click on any player, and it will show you how the handicap is broken down. And number three, the main thing I want to point out is in years past, players used to be able to just go to their handicap conversion chart and say, I'm an 18.7 handicap index playing off the red tee markers. That says I should be a 19 based on your handicap index. You're counting me out to a 20. I should be giving you a stroke. That may or may not be the case for this year going forward. So I would just say, before we get any further with this, is trust what's in Golf Genius. If you have any questions, go off of what's in Golf Genius or the handicap analysis, and try to break the habit of looking at your Gin app or your handicap conversion charts based on what your handicap may be, because that may or may not be true.
Jeff said a lot there. I'm going to summarize a little bit. This is a big change. We found out 4 days before our regular team play. We didn't see this coming. This is 4-ball match play only. It would not happen in singles match play. So as Jeff said, if there's a 10 and a 15, you're used to getting 5 strokes. That might not be the case anymore. It might be, but it might not be, depending on the course. This is a very hard concept that we've had to try to relay to all players, and it doesn't make sense. But that's the way it is. I think right now is probably a good time. If you have questions, feel free to raise your hands and we'll unmute you. Mary did ask, why are they doing this? Well, we have not gotten a full answer from the USGA on this. It is a rounding issue in terms of team format is all we've been told. Other than that, we have not heard why they did this and why they just didn't do it across the board to all formats.
We have some speculations as to why it might be, but those speculations have not been confirmed yet.
In most cases, it's not going to change the majority. It's only in a few instances, but you do have to pay attention. So as Jeff said, don't even go to the handicap charts if you're trying to compare handicaps. Go to this analysis on Golf Genius if you're a captain trying to explain to your players. Your players are not going to know this. Some will, some won't. It's a pretty big change. We understand that. We're pretty frustrated by it too, as we've had a lot of questions on it. But this is what it is, so we're going with it. And once you get used to it, though, as we've seen on the men's side, once they play to it once or twice, everyone gets used to it and it becomes a non-issue.
I'll allude to another thing Jimmy brought up, and that was mentioned on a previous slide, is any differences, they're not going to be more than a stroke or so. So if you're expecting to be getting 5 strokes, you're not going to show up and all of a sudden you're getting 2, and you're going to say, what happened? In Jimmy's case, where a 10 and a 15, you might be getting 4 strokes instead of 5. So it's not going to be anything drastic, but it might just be your stroke or so. And as we alluded to, there is the handicap analysis that will show a breakdown for that one. And
Any more questions on this? We're happy to spend some time on this. We know this is a, a confusing change. It is for us too. We're used to it now that we've been doing it for over a month, but we know this might spur some questions. If you don't have any questions now and you have questions later on, feel free to email us at champs@scga.org. We can help you out with it. We've tried to figure out a short study or handout to explain it to players. We just haven't found an easy way to develop that yet, but we're working on it. A quick player's guide.
Okay, if there's no other questions, we will go ahead and move on to the next one, which is something that you may know a little bit more about, which is how to post scores for any holes that were not played. Prior to 2024, if you did not play a hole, whether it was due to darkness, whether it was due to weather, or in women's team play circumstances, if your match finishes up prior to 18 holes, players would post their net par or par plus any handicap holes that they're going to, par plus any handicap strokes they are going to receive for any holes that were not played. However, starting in 2024, any holes that the player does not play for this year, for going forward, you're going to leave those holes blank in Golf Genius, and you're going to post the score based on that. And a new term, what's called the expected score differential, is going to be calculated. So when a score gets posted, when there's fewer than 18 holes played, the total gross score of the number of strokes the player has taken up to that point will be posted to their score history, as well as a parentheses to indicate the number of holes played. So if we look in the picture here on the right-hand side of your screen, if you look at the third column, you'll see that this player posted a score that was 66, which 66 looks like a pretty good score. However, if you look right next to it, you'll see in parentheses the number 15. What that indicates is that the player has recorded 66 strokes through 15 holes. However, when the expected score differential is calculated, what it will do is it will take the number of gross strokes that were taken up to that point, the number of holes played, or in this case, the number of holes that are yet to be played, and then it'll look at the player's handicap index, and USGA has an algorithm that it will use based on what should this player's score differential be had they finished out all the remaining holes. It will not look at how you were or well you were or were not playing that day. It won't look at the course or tee set that you were playing, and it won't look at any external factors such as weather or wind, etc., etc., etc. It will just look at, based on your handicap index and how many holes you have played, what would your score differential be if you were to finish out? And as we know, it's not necessarily the gross score itself that is used in calculating a player's handicap index, but rather the score differential. So if in the column, a few columns over, the 8.0, that is the score differential that is being calculated for this round for this player. So even though the scorer may say, I posted a 66, there's no need to panic and saying, oh my God, that 66 is going to ruin my handicap index. It's actually the score differential of 8.0 that's being calculated that we'll use to determine what your score differential would be provided that case. Do we have any questions there, Jimmy? All right. If there's not, we'll go ahead and move on. So basically what it is, just a reminder, if you
Yeah,
finish
there
up,
was. Sorry, I was on mute by mistake. What happens when you don't complete a total for the front nine and a total for the back nine? And this might And Jeff, maybe talk about that and how a shotgun would be handled.
So you're perfect leeway because I'm going to go into the next slide. However, if a match were to finish without 9 holes being recorded on either rated 9-hole side course set, you will not have an acceptable score in the eyes of the United States Golf Association, and therefore a score will not be posted. So when our course rating team goes out there and rates courses, they don't not only rate it for the entire 18-hole set, they rate each 9 as well from that course and tee set as well. So they'll, on a regulation 18-hole course, they'll rate the front 9 from every set of tees, and they'll rate the back 9 from every set of tees, and then they combine those to get the 18-hole ratings as well. But if you go ahead and let's say your match starts as a shotgun. So if you start on hole number 3 in our example, if you play holes 3 and then you finish out on 16, you close out your match on hole 16. If all players decide to come on in at that point, because you haven't played a full 9-hole set on either the front 9 or the back 9, you won't have an acceptable score, so that you will not be able to post that score. And even if you go to post your score in Golf Genius, you'll get a message saying this player doesn't have an acceptable round. Or if we look at the example that we see here on the left side of your screen, the player on the top did not play the first 2 holes, but they started playing on hole 3. Played all the holes 3 through 16, and then they stopped and decided to come on in. So because that player did not play a complete 9-hole set on either the front 9 or the back 9, that player would not be able to post their score. Using that same graphic, if we look on the bottom, the bottom player did play an entire front 9, but they didn't play an entire back 9. But since they played that entire front 9, they would have an acceptable postable score based on the topic that we just talked about on the last slide, using that expected score differential. So most of the time, I would say this isn't going to happen very, very frequently. But if you're a match that starts as a shotgun, you might not be able to post a score for that one, just depending on when that happens.
Jeff, you want to talk about if in that scenario, if they do, the match ends early, but they want to play in to get that score posted, are we okay with that?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if players want to keep on playing, just so long as it doesn't affect the original outcome of the match, which I can't imagine why it would, then they're welcome to keep on playing. The main reason why we give them the option to keep playing in is because mainly the SCGA, we don't have the ability to police it of saying, okay, your match is done, come on in. If you got 1 hole left and it was a shotgun and the hole you start or ending on is the furthest point from the clubhouse, if you want to play your way in, you're more than welcome to. But yeah, we leave that up to the courses and the host facilities to determine if they want to let them play in or if they want to let them just say, hey, you're done, come on in.
Jeff, another question came in. Is it required if one person doesn't have a postable score, all don't have a postable score?
I would say no on that one. I mean,
I
since
agree.
since each one is different, if one player, like perfect example would be our image right here. If the top 2 players are partners, one player would have a postable score and the other one wouldn't. So let's say in this top one, Kevin, who's the top player, maybe Kevin had a meeting that ran a little long, so he wasn't able to play the first 2 holes. But his partner Jimmy was able to play those holes and represent the side, so he would have a postable score. But in that case, the player wouldn't. So I would say if a score is acceptable, go ahead and make it postable as long as it's acceptable.
And a couple of people have asked this, are we supposed to post these as competition scores? The answer is yes. They will all be posted as competition scores when you post them in Golf Genius.
I will say though, if you do make the mistake in Golf Genius, it will automatically default to home originally. So you just have to make the selection to drop it as competition. But if you post a score in Golf Genius and you accidentally post it as home, you are able to go back in and repost that score via Golf Genius and just change it to competition, and it will overwrite the original posting, so you won't have a double post for that match. You will have 2 scores that might show up, but the next time a revision occurs, only 1 score will be listed. But let's say, for example, if you post a score in Golf Genius and then all of a sudden the player realizes it and posts it on their own outside of Golf Genius, say in the Gin app or something, then that would result in a double posting.
I know we've thrown a lot of changes here on the handicap side at you. any questions on this particular topic? I know we had a couple. We'll give a few minutes to ask a couple more.
Or if you have any questions about the four ball calculation one, I'll be happy to answer those as well.
Yeah, we know this is, I see a comment. Yeah, I mean, it's a little different than in years past, and it is a change. But I think once you play your matches and you play one or two matches, you'll get in the swing of it, and it should become second nature, hopefully. If not, we're happy to help on this as well.
I would once again reiterate, go with what's in Golf Genius. Go with what's in the handicap analysis. That is calculating everything correctly. So I would say if Golf Genius shows you're giving one stroke and you think you should be giving two, chances are it's because of the calculation procedure. So I would go off of what's listed in that.
We got a couple questions here. We'll get these in order. We got three of them here. First, to complete a 9-hole, can you post net double bogey for holes not played?
The answer for that one is no. So net double bogey is only supposed to be used as if the only time you would use net double bogey is if you're playing a hole and you exceed the number that you're permitted to take. So net double bogey should not be used in that case. And same thing goes if you start a hole, but you do not complete it. So let's say your partner is in for 4 and you're putting for 5. In that case, you would pick up and record your most likely score. That is the same procedure as in years past. So that one has not changed.
And she's tacking on net par as well.
So yes, net par is not to be used. There is only one circumstance where under the new rules of handicapping where net par is permitted to be used, and that is when the hole was taken out of play by the committee for reasons such as damage or maintenance. So if you're playing, hey, the 5th tee got washed away and it's kind of damaged, we're going to take the hole out of play. That case, you would be permitted to use net par. Any other time, net par is not to be used.
Another question and more of a statement, it feels like it's not equitable. I'll use that term. That only some have to post scores if this comes up. I'll just say this is not going to be that common. It really is only going to happen in a shotgun. If you're going off straight tee, this really won't come into play very much. So you hope to ease some concerns on that. And this is just what the World Handicap System between the USGA and the Royal and Ancient have come up with, and we have to abide by it and follow it.
I would even say, even with regular team play, this has only come up maybe once or twice. So this will happen very infrequently.
There's another comment. If I don't have a postable score and I played really well, it's an advantage not to finish. That's up to you as the player. You don't have to finish. You can finish. Again, we're just giving you the policies and procedures as outlined by the WHS, and we're hoping that people follow it. Any other questions on this topic? All right, Jeff, I think you can.
All right. So yeah, we'll go ahead and conclude. We'll open up the floor to just any general Q&As. You can talk about more. I know we've covered a lot of them with the changes that we had coming around here. But if you had any other questions, feel free. Now's your chance if you want to ask some.
We would also say go to our website and go to the handicap portion in the World Handicap System. It talks about a lot of the changes for 2024 as it's a revision year. And there's some other examples and videos there. So that should help as well.
I know Rule 3.2 is the one that will cover what to do if you play less than 18 holes. That will talk about the expected score differential.
Any other general questions, non-handicap, just to make people feel a little straighter and better about things? Well, if something comes up and after this webinar or something comes up the next few days, feel free to reach out to our team at champs@scga.org. We're here to help. We're here to help anytime. We want everyone to have a fun season, a fun competitive season. Hopefully The weather will cooperate once matches start. And feel free to contact us anytime. You'll get a response by the end of the day, usually, if not sooner, same day. So we're here to help, and we're happy to help.
Yep.
It's a great program. We love this program. We want it to grow. So we're more than happy to help and assist in any way we can. And feel free to reach out to us.
If otherwise, thank you very much for attending this evening. We will have this posted and emailed out either later tonight or most likely tomorrow morning. And as Jimmy mentioned, reach out to us if you have any questions. Our main extension number is right there, and the champs@scga.org is going to be the best way to get in touch with us. As we showed earlier, we have 5 people who are helping out with women's team play this year. So champs@scga.org gives you a 5 times greater chance of contacting someone if you have any questions.
Thanks, Jeff, and good luck to all this season. Thank you.
Thank you very much.